During the 7 weeks of Easter, we're going to talk about spiritual disciplines. A spiritual discipline is a practice you do to deepen your faith and get closer to God. It's usually something mundane and simple, but you do it with intention, using it to exercise your faith. So think about it like you're practicing scales on a musical instrument or skating laps on the ice rink. It might seem like a boring activity on its own, but it is meant to help you develop skills. Your spirituality is a skill that needs practice. God is around you always, but we don't always realize it because we haven't developed those skills to see it. One of my favorite ministry books is Spiritual Disciplines Handbook by Adele Calhoun. It contains this big list of spiritual disciplines, and each week I'm going to take us through one of her chapters. We can skip the first chapter actually because we're doing it already. Worship. Worship is a spiritual practice itself. You come here to engage in prayer, in sacrament, in scripture, in song, in community. It is a deeply spiritual experience, but is it a spiritual experience every time you come here? Well, maybe not, but it is practice. It's about preparing yourself to have those deeper moments. Today, though, we'll talk about the practices in Calhoun's second chapter, practices that open ourselves up to God. I'm going to list a whole bunch of them, but just dive into a couple. It includes a lot of contemplative items, like the practice of examen, which is the Ignatius way of ending each evening with an examination of your day. You pause before bed and ask, where did I experience love today? What am I grateful for today? What was the most life-giving part of my day? Or the least life-giving part? Examen is about becoming mindful of your habits and perspective. In the same way, you could do the practice of journaling, or going on a retreat, or unplugging from your phone. Since a lot of us will start dreaming about summer trips soon, let me highlight pilgrimage as a spiritual practice. Going on a pilgrimage is about making an intentional trip to a sacred site. Last October, I went to Canterbury Cathedral, a pilgrimage that I've made at least once a decade, I think. There's something about being in a foreign place and just the history of that place, which makes my heart a little more open and receptive to God. Now, you don't have to go far, however, to do a pilgrimage. You can do it anywhere, as long as it's hard enough to get to that you have to be intentional about it. Maybe it's a trip up to the mountains. You could make a trip to worship at St. Paul's Presbyterian in Banff. Or maybe hike to a spot along the North Saskatchewan River. I see the whole river as a sacred site. Indigenous people have long identified multiple sacred sites across Alberta. Writing on Stone Provincial Park, the Manitou Stone, Métis Crossing, Lesser Slave Lake. There's just lots of places around you. It will take some research and planning, but that's the key part to a pilgrimage. It's not about the distance, but about the effort you put into making that travel sacred. Other spiritual practices Calhoun lists includes slowing down, being intentionally teachable, resting. In a world that tells you that time is money and your value is in your productivity, it can be countercultural to rest. Write down what a perfect day of rest and recreation looks like to you. Intentionally place yourself in the presence of God and then go and do something that you delight in. Take a nap, talk to a friend, play a game. Enjoy yourself in God and accept that moment as a gift and blessing from God. We have a hard time receiving God's grace. Moments of playfulness is the grace of God being poured out on you. embrace in and delight in your God. My challenge to you this week is to try to do one of these practices. Next week, I'll give you a whole nother list of things you could try. Amen.